The battle starts with our boy, who is the demon of the Taros and he of the allied human forces, sending his necromancer army to dominate the battlefield, which is more than enough to cause the demons to run away. Han Ji-hyuk also made a special soldier for this war, and is amazed at the destruction that soldier is causing. Archmage Taros, who summoned Ji-hyuk in this world, was forced to come to this battlefield by our boy and does not understand why Ji-hyuk always takes Taros with him. Ji-hyuk responds that since Taros is his summoner, he needs to watch closely how well Ji-hyuk fights. Taros mentions that he has seen enough of Ji-hyuk's destruction, to which Ji-hyuk reminds Taros that he was dragged here from taking a nap at his home to risking his life in an unknown war and has been fighting for 30 years straight. So at the very least, Taros should take responsibility. Our boy mentions that he does not have the time to sympathize with Taros' so-called allied forces because, to Ji-hyuk, the demons and the allied forces are the same. But despite that, the only reason our boy is helping Taros is because it is the fastest way to return to Earth. As they are talking, Ji-hyuk's ultimate weapons manage to defeat the Demon King, upon which Taros congratulates him. However, Ji-hyuk is rather annoyed at this anticlimactic ending, for he regrets not sending out all the ultimate weapons he made to fight the Demon King at once. But our boy decides not to bother much about it, as now that he has defeated the Demon King, it's finally Taros' time to keep his promise. The scene then shifts to Ji-hyuk, who is glad to see his reward, which will be enough to make him do nothing for the rest of his life. And as our boy is checking out his enormous reward, Taros informs him that the preparations are complete and asks our boy if he would leave immediately. Ji-hyuk responds that there is no reason to delay, as even the allied forces do not want Ji-hyuk to stay here. Taros tries to tell our boy that they do not think of Ji-hyuk like that. However, our boy interrupts Taros and tells him to send him off instead of speaking empty words. Taros then shows him magic crystal that twisted casualty to keep Ji-hyuk here all this time, which is the reason our boy did not age a day even after 30 years. Taros informs our boy that the moment this crystal is destroyed, the casual regression will send Ji-hyuk to the moment he arrived here. Ji-hyuk does not understand the casualty stuff, but what he does understand is that he has to break the crystal to go back home. Taros nods, telling our boy that the crystal will easily break with a minor shock because it is at its limit, and instructs Ji-hyuk to just go along with the casual regression and not regress it. After making sure he understood everything, Taros breaks the crystal, gives Taros his goodbyes, and wishes to never meet him again. The scene then shifts to our boy, who has finally returned to his room after all these years and starts eating snacks, as he starts planning what he should do next. Our boy then starts thinking about the things he should buy first now that he has lots of money and time, and chooses to buy kimchi fried rice and stew. However, before that, Ji-hyuk opens the portal to check the stuff he brought back from the other world, only to find out that his tons of gold bars, treasure gems, and the undead army are all gone. Ji-hyuk sees all of the hard work he did for 30 years flashing before his eyes, where our boy had to read books upon books and fight wars upon wars, and eagerly waited for the day when he would return to his own world. But little did Ji-hyuk know that he would not even get severance pay for retirement. As he is cursing Taros for the cruel fate, Ji-hyuk notices some magic waves, which is surprising considering he is back to Earth. So to check what is going on, Ji-hyuk goes out on the streets, only to get shocked again with an army of monsters. Ji-hyuk wonders what kind of place he was sent to. However, Ji-hyuk realizes that he should not waste time thinking about that, and instead get out of here quickly before things get troublesome. However, as he is walking away, Ji-hyuk notices that a child is about to become Wyvern's lunch, so even though he was trying not to stand out, our boy decides to save the child using his powers and get his anger out on these monsters. However, to Ji-hyuk's surprise, before he was even able to do anything, some human comes flying in front of the child and takes down the monster with a single strike. Our boy notices that there are skilled swordsmen, archers, mages, and tanks among these humans, who are sweeping the floor with the monsters, which puts them almost on the level of the knights from the Saren continent. While he is wondering about it, our boy almost gets ambushed by a wyvern, but thanks to the mage, who blows the wyvern up, Ji-hyuk gets saved and starts cursing Taros as much as he can. After a few days of research, our boy discovers that the Earth he was transported to is indeed the Earth he knew, but with the existence of gates, monsters, and awakeners. Ji-hyuk found out that the appearances of the gates on Earth gave rise to the people with unique abilities, which were later called awakeners. Ji-hyuk wonders if this is the casualty Taros was informing him about before he came to Earth. However, Ji-hyuk has other things to worry about, as his retirement plan, which was supposed to be peaceful, has completely fallen apart, and Ji-hyuk only has around 300,000 won in his bank account, which means he has to worry about making a living at the eternal age of 60 years old. Ji-hyuk knows that he can solve his problem about money by registering as an awakener and hunting in the gates, but our boy is too lazy to do that, and although he can use magic and leave everything to skeletons in case things get tough, Ji-hyuk is worried about how people would react to the undead. However, Ji-hyuk's worry was useless, for the staff at the Awakeners Association were surprised to see a summoning-type awakener, which made things easy for our boy, as he can get his abilities categorized as a summoning type and would not have to explain much. The staff at the Awakeners Association starts bombarding Ji-hyuk with questions about his summons, as they are curious about the maximum number of summons, their nature, and their durability. Ji-hyuk, overwhelmed by the questions, replies that he is not sure about the maximum number of summons. However, after summoning, they can be stored in the portal, which makes the staff members curious if they can put other things in there. Ji-hyuk mentions that it is not possible to put other objects in the portal, but despite Ji-hyuk telling them about the limits of the portal, a staff member threw the pin towards the portal, which bounces off of it and drops on the ground. Ji-hyuk asks the staff members to trust him, upon which they apologize, telling Ji-hyuk that they have to do this since many people are trying to deceive them. After that, they proceed on to test the combat power of the skeleton, and to do that, they hit Ji-hyuk's skeleton hard with the bat, which eliminates it. Surprised at the anticlimactic result, the staff members end the test and go to their meeting room to discuss Ji-hyuk's rank. Our boy uses his enhanced hearing to eavesdrop on them, and finds out that, due to the ambiguous nature and weak durability of the ability, they believe F rank is appropriate for Ji-hyuk. After getting his Awakener's card, Ji-hyuk decides to make some cash. The reason our boy is able to summon lots of undead soldiers is because of the special macro system he devised. Most necromancers use mana to imbue undead monsters with will and make them move. However, since human mental power and mana have limits, this method limits the number of summons that can be maintained. However, Ji-hyuk's method allows him to move the undead on their own according to the command in specific situations, which is similar to how a problem-solving a flowchart looks like. In this system, our boy puts pre-written algorithms into the undead, such as the monster's green spit as the 6th evasion, which, if blocked, directs the skeleton to the 7th and 8th evasions, and so on. Thanks to that, our boy does not need to control the skeletons directly, which lifts the limits on the number of summons, making it convenient for our boy to control and summon his undeads effectively. However, since this method is similar to computer programming, there were many flaws and bugs due to command confusion, like the skeleton bringing 6 milk packs instead of 6 eggs from the store just because the store did not have eggs, and even thinking about this process annoys our boy, since he had a perfect macro system he developed over 30 years in Saren. Ji-hyuk once again completes his daily dose of cursing Taros, because if our boy still had that perfect system, he would not have to create a new program. But since complaining would not benefit him at all, Ji-hyuk decides to at least make a rough version for convenience. After hunting for approximately 4 hours straight, Ji-hyuk believes it is time for him to go out, and as he walks out of the dungeon with a good numbers of undead skeletons, the Awakeners standing outside the dungeon get surprised. But since Ji-hyuk's skeletons are weak, they conclude Ji-hyuk is rather a weak Awakener. Our boy goes to collect the reward from the agents, who are also surprised at the number of monsters Ji-hyuk defeated. Since Ji-hyuk did not even touch the monsters, he asks the agent to just calculate roughly, and after making a rough estimate and calculating taxes, the agent informs Jin-hyuk that the monsters fetched him around 2 million won. The 2 million wons get immediately deposited to Ji-hyuk's account, which makes Ji-hyuk realize that he has still a long way till he retires. However, since it is far better than getting a high rank and drawing attention, Ji-hyuk decides to endure the hardships in the beginning because once our boy sets up his macro system, things will go smooth as butter. After finishing his daily work, Ji-hyuk begins walking home when he overhears two Awakeners admiring Ji-hyuk for his amazing summoning abilities. The Awakeners mention that because of his summons, Ji-hyuk does not even need to pay 30,000 won to porters, which is quite a lot even in low-level gates, if they consider the hazard pay, upon which his friend suggests to team up with Ji-hyuk. However, the Awakener believes it is a bad idea, since summoners do not team up well with others since it is hard to coordinate. Our boy gets piqued at the mention of Porter and wishes to speak with the two Awakeners, who believe that Ji-hyuk is here to teach them a lesson for being rude. However, Ji-hyuk informs them that he is not here for that. Rather, he is here to offer his services as a porter, and because it is a grand opening event, Ji-hyuk offers his services to them for free. The business idea our boy came up with on the spot is a total jackpot, which is the Skeleton Porter MK2 that holds more monsters than a normal porter would and, along with that, is quite convenient to use. Although there are still many improvements to be made, it is a product that repurposes skeletons into porters. Moreover, the Skeleton Porter MK2 is an eco-friendly summon that neither needs fuel nor gets tired. Ji-hyuk asks 30,000 won per hour for this Skeleton Porter, which makes it 1/3 of the usual rate since it can do the work of 3 porters. Since the price was quite good, the Awakeners find it affordable and agree to buy it. Ji-hyuk requests the Awakeners to spread the word of these skeleton porters and, in return, promises to give them a special discount, which makes the Awakeners conclude that Ji-hyuk is more of a businessman than an Awakener. However, our boy does not hate that idea, because earning money comfortably is the best thing in the world. The scene then shifts to our boy, who is chilling outside drinking juice, while a white-haired girl is selling the MK2s in his place. Ji-hyuk found the white-haired girl when he was exploring the gate to complete the macro for the Skeleton Porter MK2. Ji-hyuk found the white-haired girl lying on the ground and assumed her to be dead. To avoid trouble, Ji-hyuk decided it was better to get involved and asked his skeletons to not pay any mind to her. But Ji-hyuk's meddlesome nature became dominant, and he decided to save the white-haired girl. Our boy also did this because he wanted a part-timer, and he did not want his MK2 porters to stand in front of the counter while he was selling them. Our boy uses his ability to see the memories of the white-haired girl and finds out she came to this dungeon because her family was struggling financially. The family of the white-haired girl did not want her to do that, but since her brother was busy studying, the white-haired girl took responsibility as the elder sister. Our boy promises the unconscious white-haired girl to deliver her part-time wages to her family and tells her that it is far better for her than dying in the dungeon like this. Our boy also finds out that the white-haired girl was betrayed by her teammates, who left her to die in this dungeon and, despite her cries, did not bother to help her. Our boy awakens the white-haired girl, an F-rank awakener that goes by the name Han Seoa, as a local zombie assistant and lets her join the business. Ji-hyuk's business continues to boom, and because the part-timer is quite quick with hands, our boy is earning money quite comfortably. However, there is one problem, and that is to find out the best way to deal with Han Seoa's killers. But after thinking for a while, Ji-hyuk realizes that it will be quite a hassle, so it is better to leave it. Ji-hyuk realizes that because of the limits of the gate, he is starting to have extra skeletons, which makes our boy wonder if it is the right time to go somewhere else and leave this place to Seoa. To make sure he does it right, Ji-hyuk decides to observe a bit more and goes to the bathroom for a bit. Ji-hyuk's business might be going well for him, but it does not things are going well for others, because, due to MK2 skeletons, the Awakeners have stopped hiring porters. Such is the problem Chansu and his friends are facing, as no one wants to hire them. Chansu's friends suggest they should move to some other gate, but Chansu does not believe it is not a good option, since this is the only gate that is close to them. Chansu suggests that they should instead make a request to Ji-hyuk to limit supply a bit and request him to sell less, as there is a chance he might even accept it because he looks like a chill person. However, Chansu's friends do not think it will work. Chansu tells them that they do not have any other choice, as going somewhere else would not solve the problem, because from the looks of it, even after lending out all the porters during the crowded time slot, Jihyuk still has some left, which means Jihyuk might soon expand to nearby gates. Chansu mentions that they must do something, because they cannot keep getting pushed like this, upon which Kim Yongji, who is Anatair Porter, praises Chansu for finally saying something sensible. Kim Yongji mentions that Jihyuk is a weak F-rank summoner, and because he is sending all of his summons as porters, it means he is not strong enough to fight in the dungeons. Chansu realizes that Kim Yongji is suggesting fighting an Awakener and calls him a madman for thinking so. However, Yongji responds that he is not that stupid to pick a fight with a weak Awakener without a solid backup plan. Kim Yonggi explains that Awakeners have agreed to assist him, and all Chansu and his friends need to do now is quietly follow to fill the numbers. Chansu's friends like this offer, which shocks Chansu, and he tries to stop them, upon which Chansu's friend responds that if they want to compete with Jihyuk, they would have to work for 10,000 won per hour, and with this low money, it is better for them to do another part-time job. Chansu's friends further add that since Jihyuk is the one who broke the business ethics here, they do not have any other choice than using force. Chansu advises them to resolve this issue through conversation, but because there is no guarantee words would work on Jihyuk, Chansu's friends decide to take a chance with Kim Yonggi. Kim Yonggi laughs at Chansu, telling him that he can join them if he changes his mind later, but Chansu does not think it is the right thing to do and decides to secretly pass Jihyuk a note to warn him. Jihyuk, who is listening to the whole conversation, jump scares Chansu from behind and tells Chansu that he is an interesting guy. Chansu gets surprised to find out that Jihyuk heard everything he said. Our boy tells Chansu that he was going to crush the people who were planning to set traps for him, but because of Chansu's admirable speech, Jihyuk decided to think about it. Jihyuk informs Chansu that he is planning to expand his business and asks him if he would be interested in working part-time, as the pay would be generous. Chansu, after listening to Jihyuk's plan, agrees with it and tells Chansu that the other porters would be happy to hear this plan, but Jihyuk does not like the idea of letting other porters, who are about to target Jihyuk, join in their plan. Chansu tries to explain things to our boy, telling him that they are not bad people, and the only reason they are doing this is because they are struggling with work. Chansu tells our boy that he will persuade those porters as well, because there is no way they will refuse to work with the conditions offered by Jihyuk. Our boy, who usually does not let people who betray him off the hook, decides to give those porters one more chance, for our boy also knows the pain of being broke very well. Our boy asks Chansu to persuade his porter friends, but keep the conditions our boy mentioned a secret while Chansu persuades, because if they trust Chansu enough to come back only on his words, it means they have loyalty, to which Chansu agrees and decides to meet Kim Yonggi. Kim Yonggi, on the other hand, has brought all the porters he could gather with him to his backup, which is E-rank Awakener Kim Jong-hyuk and his team, the very people who left Han Seoa to die in the dungeon. The porters are quite eased to have Kim Jong-hyuk as their backup and believe that with this backup, they would be able to take care of one F rank without breaking a sweat. Kim Jong-hyuk welcomes everyone and informs them about their agenda, telling the porters that the MK2 porters are actually super convenient and cheap, and it makes one forget about the need for real porters. But Kim Jong-hyuk mentions that his situation is a bit different, for Kim Yonggi has been earning Jong-hyuk a lot of money, which is why Jong-hyuk is stepping up to protect the rights off the porters. The porters get excited after hearing that, after which Jong-hyuk informs the porters about his plan for today. Jong-hyuk informs them Jihyuk's quitting time is quite precise, so he is soon about to head to his home, and what the porters need to do is protest at that time and be as blatant as they can, like mention how Jihyuk has no business ethics and how he lacks a good upbringing. Jong-hyuk mentions that this will be more than enough to provoke Jihyuk, which will then cause him to lay a hand on the porters, and that is where Kim Jong-hyuk will step in with his party and deal with Jihyuk. The porters like the plan, because that way, Jihyuk will be the one making the first move, and there would be no problem. However, there is a problem, and that is the increase in tribute Kim Jong-hyuk from 15 to 25%, which was unexpected even for Kim Yonggi. Kim Yong-gi tells Jong-hyuk that the increase in tributes was not in the deal, upon which Jong-hyuk mentions that dealing with an awakener comes with a fee, and tells Yong-gi that it would be better to quietly pay 25% instead of letting Ji-hyuk take all the work. Kim Yong-gi has no choice but to accept this offer, but his colleagues do not like this idea, and after Kim Jong-hyuk goes on his way, they tell Yong-gi that 25% is a lot because after paying the tribute and taxes, they would not have much left with them. Kim Yong-gi shuts them up, reminding the reason for their current situation is Ji-hyuk, because if it were not for Ji-hyuk, the incomes of real porters would not have dropped, and they would not have to beg Kim Jong-hyuk for help. Kim Yong-gi tells that everyone is free to go somewhere else and try their luck if they do not like this 25%. However, there is no knowing how long they will be able to last there. As they are talking, Chansu joins the chat, telling everyone that he has a better solution. Yong-gi asks if Chansu is here to act fake again, to which Chansu responds that he met with Ji-hyuk separately and discussed their situation. Yong-gi calls Chansu a traitor for meeting with Ji-hyuk. However, Chansu asks Yong-gi to lend him his ear for a moment and informs him that Ji-hyuk has promised to find a way for the rest of the porters to earn money. Chansu tries to explain to everyone that there is actually a way to work together, because no matter how many summons Ji-hyuk has, he cannot do it alone. Yong-gi does not like beating around the bush and asks Chansu to spill out the plan. However, there is no way Chansu can tell him that. Yong-gi refuses to trust vague promises, but Chansu assures Yong-gi that Ji-hyuk is a good person and they can resolve things with him through conversation. Chansu asks everyone to trust him and hold on for a little longer, but despite Chansu being the most trustworthy person in everyone else's eyes, Yong-gi warns everyone not to believe vague promises because they need to protect their own bowls. Everyone except Chansu's immediate friends decides to trust Chansu, but Yong-gi wants them to remember that there will be no jobs for them after they deal with Ji-hyuk. The scene then shifts to our boy, who, while on his way home, orders trotters for dinner, but gets stopped by the porters who came to protest against him. Surprised to see their plan get leaked, Kim Yong-gi believes that Kang Chansu must have spilt the beans. However, our boy tells Yong-gi that Chansu does not have to do anything with it, as he only asked for a favor and Ji-hyuk agreed to hire him as a part-timer. Yong-gi is surprised to hear that and wants to know more about it, but Ji-hyuk is not in any mood for explaining as our boy has just ordered his food and he does not want it to go cold by provoking the porters and playing along a bit. Our boy uses his binding magic on the porters that were there to protest, after which binds the awakeners that were hiding in the bush to come out at the right time. By now, everyone realizes that there is something wrong, while our boy realizes that the awakener helping the porters is the same guy who killed Han Seoa. Our boy was feeling uneasy about leaving Jong-hyuk alone since our boy did not want to bother looking for you, but things just became easy for Ji-hyuk, and now he can begin the fun. Our boy reminds them that oppressing someone who is quietly doing his own business is not the right thing to do and slams Jong-hyuk, who looks like a complete thug on the ground, telling Jong-hyuk that it is the consequence of harassing someone when they are only trying to run their business peacefully. Because Jong-hyuk crossed the limits, our boy decides to punish him so badly that Jong-hyuk would not even think of doing something like this again. To set a proper example, our boy sends a dozen of skeletons, as getting surrounded, defeated by this many undeads should be enough to clear their heads. These guys who made the mistake of hurting our boy were properly disciplined with undead accompanied with illusion magic, and out of consideration, our boy even fixed their shabby appearances before sending them back, making it a completely peaceful resolution. The next day, after dealing with the bullies, our boy meets with Chansu and their friends, who thank Ji-hyuk for giving them a part-time job. Chansu asks our boy about what he did to the people who came to harass him, to which our boy responds that he gave them a good talking and told them to not do it again. But Chansu is smart enough to understand that it was not a good talking. However, our boy does not want to think about them and gets to the main point. Ji-hyuk informs the porters that he will offer a slightly lower hourly rate of 25,000 won, which makes the porter sad. However, our boy assures the porters that they will never be out of work again, thanks to Ji-hyuk's latest invention, a six-legged, transportable skeleton Mk4, which is even capable of carrying humans. Ji-hyuk assures the porters that this MK4 porter will make their work a lot easier. However, the porters are rather confused with the design choice. The scene then shifts to an Awakener party who is having a discussion regarding the new transportal skeletons in their neighboring village, which are said to be super convenient and are so good that people are flocking to their neighboring village because of them. One of the Awakeners suggests that they should check them out someday because they might not come here. As they are discussing, one of Chance's friends, the pink-haired lady, appears in front of them sitting on an MK4 porter and asks if they would like to try using their team. The pink-haired lady explains that their team consists of her team leader, and 2 transportable skeletons, which the Awakeners can hire at the rate of 120,000 per hour. The Awakeners never heard of humans being part of the deal, so one of them asks if it would be possible to just rent the skeleton, upon which the pink-haired lady replies that it would not be possible since they only rent them out in teams. The Awakener party is rather confused over paying for the extra person. However, they finally reach the conclusion that they should at least give it a try since it is not that expensive. The pink-haired lady is glad at their choice and promises them that they would not regret it. The scene then shifts to the dungeon, where the Awakener party is waiting for the pink-haired lady to get ready. However, the pink-haired lady tells them that it is fine to leave right away since their team can pack while they are on the move. The Awakeners already find this quite convenient, as they would not have to wait for the porters to finish packing anymore. They get more amazed at the product when the monster is sighted, for the pink-haired girl hides herself in the MK4 porter. The pink-haired girl gets straight to processing the monster, which makes the Awakeners curious about the monsters they fought earlier. The pink-haired girl responds that she finished everything while they were fighting. The Awakener party, amazed at the practicality of this service, asks the pink-haired girl if it would be possible to make a reservation for tomorrow, to which the pink-haired girl nods, telling the Awakeners that the regular customers are welcomed every time. Thanks to their overwhelming efficiency and cost-effectiveness, the new skeleton team started dominating the bottom of the monster byproducts industry, but despite that, Ji-hyuk feels unsatisfied. Because of the low opinion of undead in the continent of Saren, our boy was conscious about increasing the numbers of the porters, but since it is not for combat, people's reactions have been surprisingly positive, which makes our boy want to mass-produce all these skeletons and make loads of money with them. But the only thing stopping our boy is unwanted attention, which would hinder Ji-hyuk's dream of peaceful retirement. From the beginning, the regular summoning-type Awakeners are said to manage 10 summons at most, but our boy has already far exceeded that amount, which means if Ji-hyuk makes more skeleton, he will surely draw more attention and that would complicate things. While Ji-hyuk is concerned about his future, Han Seoa is wasting time on the phone, which irritates our boy and makes him wonder if this is how parents feel when their child is addicted to a smartphone. Our boy smacks Han Seoa and takes the phone from her because, as her guardian, Ji-hyuk must know what Han Seoa is watching. Ji-hyuk finds out that while he was worried about feeding their bellies, Han Seoa was watching idol videos. Ji-hyuk believes idols must earn a ton of money from their performances, but it comes with the cost of forgetting about one's privacy, while Ji-hyuk just wants to earn money quietly and retire comfortably. As he is wondering about that, our boy realizes earning a lot of money makes one famous regardless of whether they are celebrities or not. So our boy decides that if he is going to attract attention anyways, he should go all out at it and strike the iron while it is hot. Our boy immediately contacts his boss, Park, and asks him to buy 32 million won worth of monster bones, which shocks Ji-hyuk's boss. But our boy continues, informing Park that from now on he will invest all the profits into buying more points and requests Park to handle it nicely. Park, although rather confused at such a request, immediately agrees to it and promises to gather only the freshest bones for our boy. With that out of the way, our boy then decides to set up a company, and for that he has to rent a decent warehouse and start mass-producing dozens of porters in a day. However, Ji-hyuk soon realizes that it would be far better to create all the skeleton porters at once. The scene then shifts to the Gate Management Bureau Awakener Registration Office, where the director of the Awakener Registration Office, Young Sung-hoon, asks the researcher if there is anything special to report, to which his researcher shakes his head, but suddenly remembers about the special management case of Han Ji-hyuk and informs the director that according to the latest records, Ji-hyuk created about 32 skeletons a month. The researcher further adds that Ji-hyuk has started a company called Saren, and today is its opening ceremony. Director Sung-hoon is quite amazed at this and comments that it is all about how one uses their abilities, because no one in their right mind would have thought that the weak skeletons could be used that way. Director Sung-hoon believes that because of using his abilities, Ji-hyuk might have made some decent money considering how he is now starting a company, upon which his researcher informs Sung-hoon that a rough calculation suggests that he earns billions of wons in a month. The researcher also suggests that since Ji-hyuk's summons seem to have hit a limit, they should remove him from the special management list. However, as they are discussing, another one of Sung-hoon's subordinates enters the room and informs the director about Ji-hyuk, who has just invited a large group of porters and is now indiscriminately deploying skeletons. Director Sung-hoon gets surprised after realizing that Ji-hyuk has just broken another record, as a month ago, Ji-hyuk was just at 27 summons, upon which the researcher mentions that they should keep Ji-hyuk under special management for now. The subordinate gets annoyed and slams the table, which surprises Director Sung-hoon, and he asks the subordinate about the new record Ji-hyuk has reached, upon which the subordinate informs Director Sung-hoon that according to their limited observation, Ji-hyuk has reached 300 skeleton summons. Director Sung-hoon immediately rushes to Ji-hyuk's company with his two subordinates, where he is informed that Ji-hyuk has just surpassed 350 skeletons. Director Sung-hoon is immediately guided to the warehouse, where he gets shocked to see more and more skeletons. Our boy, who was working very hard, takes a break since they have got visitors, and asks his manager, Kang Chansu, to get something good to eat since it is almost time for lunch. Our boy then introduces himself to the director of the management bureau and also meets the same researcher who conducted Ji-hyuk's test. The researcher is curious about Han Seoa standing next to our boy, so he asks Ji-hyuk about it, to which Ji-hyuk informs him that Seoa is his cousin and is here to help Ji-hyuk with the work. The researcher greets Seoa and asks Ji-hyuk if the things getting produced in this warehouse are all his summons, to which Ji-hyuk nods his head, telling the researcher that there might be around 350 summons. The researcher accuses Ji-hyuk of lying, to which Ji-hyuk explains that he himself did know about the limits of his summons. The director orders Ji-hyuk to stop this production, explaining that 350 summons is just outrageous, as it surpasses common sense for summoners, for an F-rank awakener should not be capable of doing something like this. But despite Director Sung-hoon calling it a problematic situation, Ji-hyuk refuses to stop the production because it does not seem problematic to him. Our boy informs the director that when he founded the company, he had a lawyer review the summoning-related laws, and there are not any specific regulations about the number of summons in the law. Director Sung-hoon objects and informs our boy that there are safety concerns about these skeletons, to which Ji-hyuk responds that these are the same models he has been using all along, and if they were not problematic a few months ago, they are obviously not problematic now that Ji-hyuk has increased the number. Director Sung-hoon turns to the researcher and asks him if there is actually no issue with this mass production of the skeleton, to which the subordinate responds that the law was not designed with this scale in mind. Realizing that they do not have anything else to say, our boy tells Director Sung-hoon that his company was legally established under the Special Awakener Law, allowing the retinal of their abilities of profit, and as for safety concerns, the people who have been using the skeleton porters can vouch for their safety. This ultimately caused the registration office personnel, who witnessed the mass of summons, to leave without any complaints, since they were not able to argue against our boy's thorough preparations. Our boy is glad that he unleashed everything at once, because if he had released just a few dozen a day, then the registration office personnel would have found all kinds of excuses to interfere, but since they encountered something beyond their comprehension, they froze up. Ji-hyuk realizes that he should keep making more summons, and since he can summon 300 in a day, if he stockpiles 2,000 and releases them all at once, the registration office would not be able to say a word. The time it took Ji-hyuk to create 1,000 transport-type skeletons, the media was buzzing about an awakener controlling over 500 summons, but our boy did not care about any of that. After creating 1,000 skeletons, our boy lost all his will to create any more skeletons, and now he does not want to work anymore. Ji-hyuk questions if he was so excited about starting the company that he forgot how much effort it would take to summon 300 skeletons a day. Ji-hyuk does not like how this is going, because he originally wanted to retire because he did not like working, but now Ji-hyuk has to fund his own retirement, which does not make any sense. As he is in this dilemma, Chansu enters his room and informs him about the big problem that is brewing outside as a large group of porters from other regions is protesting against the Saren company. Our boy gets shocked after hearing this and immediately runs outside to solve the issue. The porters, on the other hand, do not like the idea of transport-type skeletons, for they are ruining the porter industry as awakeners avoid hiring human porters and complain that human porters are expensive and inefficient. The porters believe that the summons are threatening workers' livelihoods just like robots, and porters are facing lots of difficulty since they are forced to move to far-off gates because of these summons, which is why the porters condemn Saren's tyranny for staking porters' jobs by employing cheap summons and demand Han Ji-hyuk, the CEO of Saren Company, to protect the labor rights of porters. Our boy, who is attentively listening to the demands of the porters, introduces himself and invites the porters to come and talk inside. Our boy sits the porters in the meeting room to listen to their objections, upon which the protest leader informs our boy that the situation for porters is not good after the transport skeletons took over the market, and as a result, the porters have been pushed to distant gates, and in their area, no one wants to hire human porters anymore. The protest leader mentions that even if some of the porters manage to find a job, they are being looked down upon for being less cost-effective compared to skeletons. Our boy considers the objections and realizes that if one skeleton porter can replace 6 porters, then the 250 skeletons on the market are replacing 1,500 people, which means that if our boy released 1,000 more skeletons that he prepared, nearly 3,000 porters would lose their jobs. Additionally, given that our boy needs to make at least 10,000 more skeletons to reach his retirement goal, countless porters would lose their jobs. Keeping these consequences in mind, our boy concludes that he would not increase the number of transport skeletons anymore, as he cannot threaten the livelihood of others. Moreover, our boy also assures the protest leader that, to make this offer easier to accept, he will adjust the cost of the skeleton squads to maintain balance with market prices. The protest leader is quite content with this proposition, upon which our boy orders Chansu to bring a paper and pen to put this proposition into writing and make it official. Chansu is glad that things ended peacefully again, and he again gets to see how incredible of a person Ji-hyuk is. After signing the proposition, our boy is sitting in his office thinking of new ways to earn lots of money, and concludes that his next product should be easy to make, and should not be related to combat, since the reason skeletons were well received was because they were not combat-oriented. Moreover, unlike last time, our boy also should not make a product that harms existing jobs, for our boy is just tired of being cursed at all the time. As he is wondering, the stationery in Ji-hyuk's office, which is all made in China, grabs his attention and gives him a new idea, which would not cause any problems since our boy does not need to worry about neighboring countries. The scene then shifts to a shoe factory, which is close to Saren, where the owner of the factory, Kim Deok-bae, is managing the business that has been passed down from his father's generation and has reached a point where he has to make a decision on whether he should compete with China's ridiculous prices or keep the number of workers low. As Kim Deok-bae is wondering about it, his assistant barges into the door and asks him if he is aware of the skeletons produced by Saren Company in the industrial complex, to which Kim Deok-bae nods, telling his assistant that he envies the Saren Company owner for making huge money after getting awakened. Kim Deok-bae also wishes to be an awakener, for he believes his life would have been a lot different. At that very moment, our boy enters Deok-bae's office, telling Deok-bae that he is here to discuss something with Deok-bae. Our boy introduces himself as the CEO of Saren Company and asks Deok-bae to introduce him to the business, as Ji-hyuk has recently taken an interest in the shoe industry and is thinking about possibly acquiring it, which surprises both Deok-bae and his assistant. Deok-bae, realizing that he has finally gotten the opportunity, guides our boy to the production house, as Deok-bae has to do his best to sell this company for the sake of the employees. Diokbi informs our boy that the first used the machines at the back to stamp out individual parts of the shoes, after which the machines at the other side stitch those parts together. Our boy realizes that the machines are a bit outdated, to which Diokbi nods, telling Jihyuk that they have highly skilled employees to make up for that, and it is much better than running faulty machines. After that, Diokbi informs our boy that the employees in this department stitch everything together and they let it dry after applying adhesive. Diokbi explains the basic production to our boy, telling him that things get a bit more complicated in the details. Our boy realizes that this seems quite manageable and is way easier than combat macros. Jihyuk notices that most of this is manual work, upon which Diokbi informs him that cutting can be automated, but other than that, the rest still needs to be done by hand. Diokbi also mentions that Jihyuk might have to worry about the number of employees compared to output, but if they were to run the factory at its full capacity, they would need more employees. Diokbi then informs our boy that right at this moment, they have only 20 employees, but there was a time when they used to have 100 of them. After learning about the basic production process and the employee requirements, Jihyuk asks Diokbi how he handles sales, to which Diokbi responds that they primarily work on orders where customers make requests and modify their base designs to meet their needs. Jihyuk inquires whether it is possible to produce stock in advance and sell it that way, to which Diokbi responds that it is, but if unsold, the stock piles up and everything becomes a loss, as demand for small-scale shoe factories like this one is quite predictable. Our boy likes how Diokbi is being honest with his sales and asks him if it would be possible to produce low-cost shoes in bulk for export if Diokbi had extremely cheap labor costs. Diokbi tries to explain that it might sound simple right now, but this process is actually quite complex, since shoes cannot be entirely automated, which is why big brands seek out low-cost labor countries for production instead of automating everything. Jihyuk responds that he is not interested in automation and repeats his question, to which Diokbi responds that it would be possible since cheap products sell everywhere. This sounds ideal for our boy, and he purchases the entire factory while also retaining Diokbi as the company manager and all of the employees, which Diokbi greatly appreciates. Because Jihyuk has done so much for Diokbi, Diokbi promises to do his best to secure orders by running everywhere to repay Jihyuk somehow. However, our boy does not believe there would be any need for that, as they are planning to produce stock and sell it directly for export. And to make sure they mass-produce efficiently, our boy introduces Diokbi to his skeleton army, which would be their new interns. Jihyuk requests Diokbi to teach these skeletons everything he knows about making shoes, which Diokbi happily agrees to, concluding that Jihyuk is truly an angel. Few days pass and skeletons get used to producing shoes in the factory, while Diokbi, on the other hand, is finally busy after a long while, and all the credit goes to Jihyuk. Jihyuk responds that it was Diokbi who actually handled all the business. Diokbi, however, was actually surprised after hearing that he would be hiring skeletons as employees and was initially worried that things would go wrong. Jihyuk assured Diokbi that everything would be alright since they are not breaking any laws, and showed Diokbi the shoe his skeleton just made. Diokbi found the shoes better than his expectations, but realized that they were still not as good as something made by hand. Jihyuk told Diokbi that instead of being vague, Diokbi should tell the exact problem he has with shoes, to which Diokbi responded that their stitching is quite sloppy. Jihyuk, right at that moment, fixed the problem and handed over the new shoe his skeleton made to Diokbi, who was surprised to find out that everything he mentioned has been fixed without any error. Our boy assured Diokbi that if they go through some trial and errors like this, the skeletons will turn into good employees. Diokbi quickly realized that Jihyuk was correct, for now the skeletons are performing so well that their company can save significantly on production costs because the skeletons do not require any labor, and thanks to that, Saren Company can now compete with Chinese products on price and even export. Diokbi mentions that if they keep building their reputation like this, they might even get original equipment manufacturer contracts from major brands, which surprises our boy, because he thought that brands ran their own factories, upon which Diokbi informs our boy that everything is OEM, and the only things the brands handle are the designs, while the factories just manufacture and deliver the products. Deokbi further adds that at their current stage, they can easily take over the production volume from existing factories. From Deokbi's explanation, Ji-hyuk realizes that they do not even need to design anything. Rather, they only need to focus all their energy on manufacturing. The days at Saren's Shoes continued without a dull moment, and to handle the increased orders, they acquired a few more shoe factories and expanded their operations, which also kept our boy busy, as he continued making different settings and changes in the skeletons when required. Because of this, Ji-hyuk had to work overtime almost every day, and today, just like every other day, Ji-hyuk is returning home after pulling another overtime when he receives a call from Kim Deokbi, who informs our boy about the new order they have received, because of which they will have to adjust the production lines, and for that they need Ji-hyuk. This made life hell for our boy, and it was not just the workload, but Deokbi also felt bad for having to ask for adjustments after finally securing an order, and if things go on like this, both Ji-hyuk and Deokbi are going to collapse. Our boy wonders if he should train an apprentice, because even though he is Han Seoa, they are still short on hands. But even if our boy does consider training an apprentice, it would take lots of time and effort, and increasing the number of zombies like this one is also not feasible. Moreover, if our boy increases the number any further, it will be impossible to hide. As he is thinking about setting the basic framework and fine-tuning the macros, our boy realizes that macro is not much different from programming, and this gives our boy a nice idea for his early retirement plan. A few days later, our boy is interviewing Baek Sango and asks him if he has any special skills, since after looking at Sango's resume, he does not much experience besides part-time jobs. Sango realizes that he does not have any notable skills and wonders if he should say something related to the job. Seeing Sango go silent for a moment makes our boy conclude that he does not have any special skills and tries to proceed with the interview. But Sango stops him, telling Ji-hyuk that he indeed has some special skills. Baek Sango informs our boy that he is quite good at games, which shocks Sango himself, as he does not know why he said that, but Sango continues, telling our boy that he does not discriminate between genres and is good enough to rank high in every game. Ji-hyuk asks Sango if he is interested in games where one builds and stimulates things, to which Sango nods, telling our boy that those games are his speciality. Our boy asks Sango if he has anything to show with regards to that, to which Sango responds that he has uploaded some videos about the game where one combines parts to create golems. But Sango, instead of making golems, made an airplane and flew it into the sky. Sango mentions that the physics of the engine he used in this airplane is quite sophisticated, and if Ji-hyuk takes a closer look, he would find out that there is a motor under the propeller-looking thing, which is originally a part for golems, but because this motor has a good thrust, it can lift the whole body if designed well, which is why Sango attached it below. Sango, while concluding that it is about time he looks for another job, tells our boy that what he did is really difficult to do, as he had to use parts meant for completely different purposes to create a mechanical device. To his surprise, Sango's thorough explanation worked well for him, as Ji-hyuk was actually looking for someone like this. So he immediately hires Sango and asks if he can come to work tomorrow. The next day, Sango is surprised with a weird skeleton-looking product that he has never seen before. Our boy tells him that it is a computer, which shatters Sango's reality of what a computer is. Ji-hyuk tells Sango that it would be more accurate if they called it a control console, as it is capable of controlling the skeleton right in front of them. Our boy tells Sango that he will teach him how to operate this control console, after which Sango should try performing the national gymnastics routine with this skeleton in a week. The control console Ji-hyuk gave to Sango looks like a normal console, but it is actually a skeleton mage. The skeleton mages, unlike regular skeletons, can use simple magic, and the one our boy gave to Sango has been shaped into a console with various buttons and levers for control. The console control our boy made is a bit rough, and the controls are a bit tricky since it was hastily put together, but despite that, surprisingly, Sango was able to finish controlling it 2 days ahead of the deadline. Ji-hyuk is relieved that he chose the right person and asks Sango how it feels to use the control console, telling him that if anything is inconvenient, he should point it out. Seeing the opportunity, Sango pours his heart out at everything that was inconvenient, after which our boy promises to fine-tune them later. Ji-hyuk tells Sango that since he is the first programmer of the Saren company, Ji-hyuk has very high expectations of him, telling Sango that soon when new juniors join this company, Sango will be their senior, for which Sango has to work hard. Sango, who was struggling with landing a job, is amazed at the mention of juniors. But there is more, as our boy also promises him a promotion and increased salary if Sango continues to work efficiently. Sango promises to work hard and live up to Ji-hyuk's expectations, but our boy is still struggling to understand the mindset of the younger generation. A few days later, our boy receives a call from the registration office, who informs Ji-hyuk that the shoe factory is doing well. However, our boy already knows it and ends the call because he does not like how the registration office is calling him for trivial stuff. Ji-hyuk then asks Deokbi, who was curious about the call, regarding Sango's progress, to which Deokbi responds that Sango, at the start, struggled and messed up quite a few shoes, but lately, he seems to have adapted to the work and is doing much better. Since Sango has adjusted perfectly to the work, our boy tells Deokbi that they should post the job opening for another programmer. Our boy also notices that they are running out of supplies, upon which Deokbi assures our boy that they are not short on inventory, although it might look like that because of their factory expansion, which is outpacing the rumors spreading about the Saren company. As they are having an important discussion regarding the company, Han Seoa, on the other hand, is experimenting on the skeleton to change its color, in which she succeeds with flying colors. While Han Seoa is busy in her own important task, our boy suggests that they should start taking orders from big-name brands. However, Deokbi does not like the idea, since it has just been over a month since Ji-hyuk has acquired his first shoe factory, but Ji-hyuk cannot help it as he is just impatient by nature. Deokbi tells our boy that he can try submitting their business proposal, but is worried that they would not get accepted since it is hard for small-scale businesses to get such big orders. Our boy is confident that they can do it, since there is no other company that can produce products at such a cheap rate, to which Deokbi agrees, and tells Ji-hyuk that the cheap price is not the real issue, rather the trust they are lacking, since big-name brands value trust over anything. Our boy asks Deokbi if their production capabilities insufficient for high-end brands, to which Deokbi shakes his head, telling our boy that this was the case at the start, but now they are far more precise than humans. This makes our boy conclude that what they need is not the trust, but rather a chance to prove themselves, and decides to launch a proper ad campaign. Ji-hyuk mentions that in that ad campaign, they should tell people that their shoes are made by skeletons, which Ji-hyuk believes should be more than enough to generate buzz. As their conversation concludes, our boy realizes what Han Seoa has been up to and is stunned to see a pink-colored skeleton dressed as a member of a rock star band. Our boy tells Han Seoa to put the skeleton back the way it was, but then realizes something and tells her to leave the shape for now because it is cute and less intimidating. However, he tells her to change the skeleton back to its original color. After a few days, some influencers take a tour of a Saren shoe factory, where they are surprised to find that the skeletons are rather cute. The employee at the factory offers the influencer shoes made directly from skeletons. The employee informs the influencer that these shoes cost 6,000 won per pair, which surprises the influencer, for he was not expecting to find such a good quality shoe at such a cheap price. However, the influencer does not like the design and asks the employee whether the skull theme is intentional. The employee tells the influencer to not worry about it, as they are just decorations that can be easily removed. The influencer is amazed at that and asks the employee to pack 4 pairs of these shoes, to which the employee responds that they have limited their sales to 2 pairs per person. The influencers get those 2 pairs and make a video regarding it, which gains significant attention on many video sharing platforms, garnering immense views, which in turn helped Saren gain rapid recognition at an unbelievable pace. A few days later, Deokbi informs our boy that they have finally gotten a work request from Roko, which is a U.S sports brand ranked in the top 20. Our boy, excited at the result of their campaign, tells Deokbi to start working on the sample right away. Our boy presents the sample to the manager of the Roko company in the meeting, who finds the sample quite flawless and is surprised to see that despite having a low price per unit, there are no compromises to the quality either. The manager promises to propose this to the higher-up, which makes our boy excited, and he asks the manager if there is any chance it will work out, to which the manager responds that he cannot guarantee that, because even though the price is great, the skeleton-based production has not been proven yet. Haunted by the word proven, our boy asks the manager if it would be possible for him to inform them of the terms of the contract because our boy needs to make sure they are prepared. The manager responds that the company is just looking for a stopgap solution right now, so the terms would not be so great. Our boy gets annoyed, asking if by that he means they are going to lower the price even further, to which Deokbi, who is in the meeting, informs our boy that the manager is talking about the shorter contract period and fewer guaranteed quantities. Jihyuk does not get it. So Deokbi explains to him that big brands and major manufacturers usually sign longer contracts and guarantee a minimum order quantity every month, which is like a carrot big brands offer to manufacturers. Because of those minimum sales, the brand gets a steady supply of shoes during the contract period. However, Deokbi adds that sometimes the companies use those guarantees to drive down unit costs. But since that does not apply to Saren Shoe Factory, our boy does not need to worry about that. The manager adds to the discussion, telling Jihyuk that their company is in a rush to find a replacement for their stalled factory, which is why the contract period would be short and the company would not be able to offer much in terms of guaranteed quantities, because once their local factory restarts, the surplus inventory will burden the headquarters. Jihyuk is curious about what the company can offer at the moment, to which the manager responds that, from what he knows, it is a 3-month contract with a guaranteed quantity of under 40,000 pairs per month. However, it is subject to change depending on the situation. Our boy asks Deokbi if that works for them, to which Deokbi responds that large manufacturers would not even consider accepting this, but small-scale businesses like Saren Shoe Factory have to accept it to aim for future contracts. After hearing the explanation, our boy realizes that if they just sit still relying on low prices, they would not even pass the paperwork stage, let alone secure a good contract. Jihyuk asks the manager if there are any factories currently under contract, to which the manager responds that despite the headquarters making several proposals here and there, they have not been able to finalize a contract. In that case, our boy mentions that they should limit the contract period to 1 month, because if the local factory restarts, Roko would face lots of difficulties. Our boy also suggests that they should make the contract renewable monthly with mutual consent, and while keeping the unit price the same as before, our boy promises to not request guaranteed quantities or upfront payments. Deokbi is shocked after hearing that offer, while the manager, on the other hand, is also rather confused, but Jihyuk gives the company another advantage and tells them that if there is a drop in quality or defective products, then the Saren Shoe Company would compensate double the production cost. They end the meeting with the manager promises to relay those conditions to the higher-ups, while our boy, on the other hand, is certain that they have secured another deal. But, unlike Jihyuk, Deokbi is shocked to see Jihyuk make the terms even worse for them, because with these terms, Roko can sign the contract and never place a single order, which would lead them to suffer no losses. Our boy tells Deokbi that this is what he was aiming for, and explains that since samples are usually free, people can try them without hesitation, and because their company is offering the lowest unit cost and unwavering quality, they will be able to get Roko's trust easily. Jihyuk further adds that because there is no other company that can adjust production levels as quickly as Saren Shoe Company, they now just have to wait for Roko to taste the free sample Saren is giving, and once they taste it, they would not stop at just 1 bite and continue begging Saren to make more shoes for them after the contract ends, as they have yet to taste the true flavor of the undead. Roko headquarters in the United States. The golden-haired man places the proposal template file on the table after realizing that it represents the maximum production capacity they can increase. He is the CEO of the Roko company. The black-haired man confirms to the CEO that they are already operating at full capacity, and to increase it further, they would need to hire more employees, but the manufacturers are hesitant. The manufacturers also said they can manage up to 200,000 pairs with the existing facilities, but to cover the remaining 300,000 pairs, they have no choice but to find a new factory. The CEO starts thinking after hearing that report and then asks the black-haired man for his opinion about the factory located in Fujian, China. The black-haired man informs the CEO that the factory requires a 6-month contract period and guarantees a production volume of 200,000 pairs per month. The CEO then brings up the factory in Jinjiang City. Hearing that, the black-haired man explains that they agreed to a 3-month contract, but also requested an increase in the guaranteed volume. The main problem with that agreement is that Roko needs 70,000 pairs by next week. The black-haired man thinks of something and asks the CEO if he has seen a certain video. He explains that it is about a summoner-type awakened person in Korea who runs a shoe factory using summoned creatures. The CEO says it is the first time he has heard of it, so he asks why the black-haired man is bringing it up. The black-haired man hands him a tablet and tells him to take a look. The CEO initially assumes it is just a video of an awakened person showing off their abilities and believes it will just be for show. But after seeing the actual video, the CEO is extremely shocked and immediately orders the black-haired man to show him the meeting results with that factory because he is concerned about it. The CEO can't believe the authenticity of the video, so the black-haired man confirms that it is real and also gives him the contract papers, telling him to review them. The CEO is amazed to see that it is a 1-month contract with automatic extension. There is also no guaranteed quantity, and even if defects occur, the factory compensates double the cost. After that, the CEO checks the delivery price and asks the black-haired man if there is a mistake, but he confirms that, as shown in the video, the factory's labor costs are nearly non-existent, which makes the delivery price possible. Hearing that information, the CEO asks about the product quality, and the black-haired man explains that they checked the samples and the quality is acceptable. He suggests the CEO give it a try since there is no risk. Even if defects appear, the factory will compensate double the cost. The CEO agrees because, even if the quality turns out to be poor, there is no real risk, so he decides to place an order for 10,000 pairs, starting with the simplest design first. The scene then shifts to a silver-haired old man calling the factory's CEO and happily informing him that they have received an order for 10,000 pairs from the Roko company. Ji Hyuk seems very pleased and asks the silver-haired old man if they have the required materials. The old man confirms that they are readily available in the market, so once they place the order, the materials will arrive quickly. He then happily asks Ji Hyuk if they should stop the current production line and proceed with Roko's order first. Ji Hyuk asks why and points out that they can work on both simultaneously since they have an abundance of summoned skeletons. The silver-haired old man believes that sewing well is one thing, but they also need to stamp out shapes for each part, and the machines are already at full capacity. Hearing that, Ji Hyuk asks what the big deal is and uses his necromancy abilities to create the machine they were lacking. The old man is shocked, and Ji Hyuk asks what else they need for production. The manager explains that they also need more space because all 5 other factories, including this one, are out of room. Ji Hyuk tells him to use the Saren warehouse since it has plenty of space. The old man informs Ji Hyuk that manufacturing in an unregistered facility is illegal. Ji Hyuk seems to already know this, but insists that they have registered it, then asks if there is anything else they need. The manager's mind is overwhelmed, and he informs Ji Hyuk that there is nothing else required. Hearing that, Ji Hyuk decides to wrap it up in one go. The manager quickly agrees with him. The next day, at the Roko headquarters, the CEO is having a meeting with his executive members, saying that they don't have enough time and can't delay any longer. They need to compromise with the current factories by reducing the guaranteed volume. While the meeting is still in progress, the black-haired man reads an email from the factory and immediately calls the CEO. When the CEO asks what the matter is, the black-haired man explains that it is about the factory that produces shoes using skeletons, the one they contacted yesterday. Thinking the factory is unreliable, the CEO asks if they said they can't do it or if they refuse to change the contract. The black-haired man informs him that they did not decline the order. Instead, they have already finished making everything. The CEO is startled and asks again because he can't believe it. The black-haired man shows the email to the CEO, sent from their Roko branch in Korea. The factory delivered all 10,000 pairs, and the inspection results show that every pair is of good quality with no defects. The CEO wonders if it is really possible, considering the price, quality, and production speed. The black-haired man suggests that this might be a real opportunity because if the factory can make 10,000 pairs in one day, then handling larger orders should also be possible. There is no guaranteed volume, and it is just a one-month contract, so there is no better option to fill this gap. The CEO smiles and tells the black-haired man to place an order for all the quantities they need by next week, but this time with multiple models so they can confirm whether the factory is truly reliable. The scene then shifts to Ji-hyuk, who receives information about the 60,000 pairs with 7 different models. The manager tells him that Roko is testing the factory and has also asked about their maximum production capacity. Ji-hyuk is very pleased with the deal and happily calls Park to ask if he can provide them with a ton of bones. Park gladly confirms that it is possible. Ji-hyuk decides to show the Roko company what crazy volume really means. It takes only 2 days to finish the order. The CEO of Roko and the black-haired man are both extremely surprised. After that, everything progresses smoothly, and Roko places an additional order of 80,000 pairs in just a week. That, too, is completed perfectly in only 2 days, and the following week they order 150,000 pairs, all delivered in just 4 days. It takes only 10 days to produce the monthly quantity Roko needs. Thanks to Sarin Factory's efforts, Roko successfully fills the gaps caused by the closed factory and perfectly covers the shortages. During a meeting with the CEO, the black-haired man reports that the factory, which had been shut down, has resumed production faster than expected. Hearing this, the CEO confirms that it is good news. The brown-haired man comments that the profit from Sarin's production increased significantly for a while. The other executives also believe that Sarin's quality is more consistent than any other manufacturer, and their ability to adjust production using skeletons is on an entirely different level. The black-haired man then tells the CEO that they are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every year due to contracts with other factories. But if they work with Sarin, things will change. Once they place an order, finished products will start arriving within a few days. This means they can order whenever needed and significantly reduce losses from inventory. Hearing this, the CEO decides to follow the black-haired man's advice, and they choose to officially sign a contract with Sarin. The black-haired man meets Ji-hyuk and hands him the official contract they received from Roko's headquarters. Ji-hyuk looks at it and remarks that he already said Roko would eventually ask them to produce for them. The black-haired man tells Ji-hyuk that if he reads the contract, he will see that it is a 1-year agreement with a guaranteed 150,000 pairs per month, terms that even large manufacturers would envy. Ji-hyuk reads the contract. Ji-hyuk bluntly asks if it is really a good deal. The black-haired man confirms that it is, so hearing that, Ji-hyuk thinks again and asks manager Kim to read it once, then hands the contract paper to him. Kim reads the contract and goes through it carefully. Ji-hyuk comments that there are many issues, so he wants Kim to point out everything. Kim doesn't understand what Ji-hyuk is trying to say because he doesn't see any real problems in the contract. The production quantities for the assigned models are missing, but that is in line with their policy, so it shouldn't be an issue, and aside from that, the rest is just a standard OEM contract. Ji-hyuk can't understand it and asks if this is really a standard contract, then grabs the contract again to take another look. He drops it on the table and tells Kim and the other person to look at the clause stating that any damage or loss that cannot be attributed to the responsibility of party A must be compensated by party B. There is also another clause saying that if party B causes a delay in supply, then they must compensate. Ji-hyuk questions why they are expected to compensate when the factory that had issues was shut down due to a coup. The black-haired man believes that, according to the contract, the factory would indeed have to compensate, but he heard that the head office already gave them some discounts. Hearing about discounts, Ji-hyuk becomes very angry. asking if they are saying this compensation was demanded or simply something the head office wanted. The black-haired man replies that despite everything, this is the standard practice in the industry. As long as the products are defect-free and production goes smoothly, there shouldn't be a problem with these terms. He reassures Ji Hyuk that he understands this is his first contract, so he is hesitant, but this is nearly the standard contract in the industry. If Ji Hyuk can't accept it, then it means they won't be able to contract with any manufacturer. He adds that the representative doesn't focus too much on it, because these clauses are prepared only in case something unexpected happens. Ji Hyuk doesn't feel assured by these explanations and begins telling the black-haired man about a business trip he once took abroad. He explains that it was the same situation there. They told him to just do one thing and not worry about the rest. But when he actually tried it, everything turned out to be much more complicated, with many things demanding attention instead of just one. He accidentally offended the son of a high-ranking person at one company, and the person caused a huge fuss about it. They said they were going to discipline Ji Hyuk, even though he was the one practically keeping the company afloat, which felt absurd. All the workers pointed fingers at him, and that's when he realized that if he kept doing everything they asked, he would end up being a fool. Regardless of industry standards, doing things in their own way is the best. After finishing the story, Ji Hyuk tells Kim that the service they provided to Roko is enough proof of their capability because they delivered several 100,000 units of quality goods in just 2 months. After saying this, Ji Hyuk grabs a pen and crosses out the lines in the contract that he does not want included, removing clauses he finds unreasonable. For example, they are not obligated to take care of other companies' orders, so he removes that clause as well. After making these changes, Ji Hyuk gives the contract to the black-haired man, telling him that they will accept the contract only if these changes are made. After reading the edited contract, the black-haired man is extremely shocked and says the head office will never accept it. Ji Hyuk asks why they wouldn't accept it, saying that as long as Roko does not nitpick, there will be no problem. He also reveals that he plans to send proposals to every manufacturer with these same terms, and whoever signs a contract with them first will receive priority in orders. Ji Hyuk tells the black-haired man that the reason is simple. These clauses are tedious and cumbersome, but once a company places an order, their factory will work hard to deliver. So if this approach works, Ji Hyuk will sign the contract immediately, and now the decision is up to Roko. The CEO of Roko becomes very angry after receiving the news, and the other executive members also believe that the factory is basically mocking them. They question whether they really need to be dragged around by a small company. They acknowledge that they made a profit, but it was not a particularly large amount. But one executive with a bright mind suggests that they still can't ignore it, because the benefits of trading with the Sarin factory are limitless. Passing up a chance to stabilize financially due to pride would be highly inefficient. Some of the executives clash with each other, saying they can't set such a precedent because it might cause problems in future contracts. Realizing the situation, the CEO decides to stop the meeting for today and monitor the situation, adjusting accordingly since the factory has resumed normal operations now. However, it doesn't take long for their decision to waver. The black-haired man informs the CEO that another factory wants them to include a clause in the contract to increase production of the new DP-10 model. The CEO yells that he already told them it was too soon last time. The delivery price is high and the requirements are excessive, so he asks why they should deal with that. Then he compares the factory to Sarin's, saying that if it were Sarin, the work would already be underway. Thinking that although he knows this situation is normal, after experiencing Sarin's performance, he keeps comparing all other factories to them. The brown-haired man immediately rushes into the CEO's office looking worried and reports that there are defective products from the Chinese Yunk factory and they need to be reproduced. The CEO also looks troubled upon hearing about the reproduction. The brown-haired man reassures him that the quantity is not large, but the delivery is expected to be delayed. According to the contract, the factory will bear the reproduction costs, but their stock will be insufficient during the delay. After listening to all of this, the CEO again compares the situation to Sarin's service, saying that it wouldn't have happened if it were Sarin. He then asks the black-haired man what Saren is doing right now. The black-haired man informs him that Saren factories are sending proposals to other manufacturers, and in fact, some makers have shown interest and requested samples. Hearing that, the CEO says it makes sense, given Saren's quality results. The CEO suddenly remembers that the Saren factory stated that the first contract always guarantees priority production. Thinking of that, he immediately orders the brown-haired man to proceed with the Saren contract. The brown-haired man becomes very nervous and replies that he thought the CEO planned to put it on hold. The CEO tells him again to proceed immediately because if other manufacturers sign contracts first, Roko will be pushed to the back of the line. To sum it up, the result ended up favoring the Saren factory. Roko signed a contract that tripled their margin, and other manufacturers began placing orders one after another. The scene then shifts to Kim happily informing Ji-hyuk that their total orders exceeded 1 million units in just 1 month. Sitting at his desk, Ji-hyuk laughs loudly and asks how long it has been since Roko came back. He thinks to himself that now that word has spread, they will receive tons of contracts, and by increasing the number of skeletons, the Saren factory will continue generating large profits. While browsing through letters and documents, Kim reads one and tells Ji-hyuk that a company is asking whether they can also produce clothes. Kim then asks if Ji-hyuk knows anything about clothing manufacturing. Ji-hyuk confirms that he knows about it to some extent and asks Kim if it is also a labor cost battle. Kim smiles and confirms that the labor cost is even higher than for shoes. Hearing that, Ji-hyuk stands up and tells Kim that he will immediately acquire a clothing factory and they will produce clothes as well. Ji-hyuk smiles and asks if they should just become an all-in-one manufacturer. Anything can be ordered and the Saren company will make it, so clients only need to place their orders. Kim happily agrees, saying that it sounds great, and since they already make shoes, producing other products shouldn't be a problem. And because it's Ji-hyuk doing it, he believes it will succeed. Ji-hyuk decides to start implementing the plan right away and turn the Chinese company into old news so that when people think of factories, they will think of Ji-hyuk. Approximately 6 months later, Saren targeted not only clothes and hats, but even accessory factories and all other labor-intensive light industries, establishing itself as a comprehensive manufacturing company. However, a problem arose. Kim informs Ji-hyuk that while production and orders from the shoe factory are coming in just fine, the other factories often have skeletons left idle because of fewer orders. To maximize the utility of the skeletons, Kim suggests hybridizing all the factories. When one part's production is complete, they could transfer the idle skeletons to another part, but the main problem is that there is no space available to implement the hybridizing plan right now. All the factories they have acquired are small, and once they place the necessary machinery for work, even the original tasks can't be properly carried out. Ji-hyuk is very worried because finding a new large space is the biggest issue right now. Kim also confirms that it would be best to purchase a larger factory once they have saved enough funds. Hearing that, Ji-hyuk becomes even more worried because there is an even bigger problem. Ji-hyuk seems lost in thought, so Kim asks if he is even listening. Ji-hyuk lifts his head and confirms to Kim that he is listening. The biggest problem for Ji-hyuk is that his motivation has completely faded. Since the factories around the world are earning plenty of money, Ji-hyuk is starting to get lazy. Kim suggests that Ji-hyuk go home and get some rest if he is not feeling well. Ji-hyuk becomes very pleased and asks if he really can go, but it turns out Kim was joking. He tells Ji-hyuk that he can't go home since there is a mountain of reports that must be reviewed, so he can't leave. Ji-hyuk seems very disappointed by Kim's behavior. Kim laughs and asks what Ji-hyuk means by that. After some time, Kim tells Ji-hyuk that he can take a break at the office if he wants to, since the remaining reports are not urgent and he can look over them tomorrow. Ji-hyuk really likes that idea and immediately stands up, thanking Kim. Just then, Ji-hyuk suddenly receives a notification on his mobile phone. Kim wonders what it is. Ji-hyuk checks his phone and finds that it is an emergency disaster alert, informing them that an unstable gate has been detected in the area and they need to evacuate to the nearest shelter. Reading that, Ji-hyuk realizes the gate's location is nearby, so he immediately orders Kim to evacuate with the employees. While they are leaving, Ji-hyuk asks what kind of monster prompted an evacuation order and wonders if the situation is normal. The black-haired man next to him explains that, based on the information he checked earlier, the monsters are skeletons. Ji-hyuk starts sweating right away upon hearing this, as it sounds ominous. News channel reporters work hard to deliver the latest updates to the public. The emergency response team is currently engaging monsters suspected to be skeletons, but it is estimated that repelling them will take more time. The news channels also show footage from helicopters capturing the situation, where awakeners are trying to locate the skeletons, but the situation is becoming increasingly intense. The awakeners team leader orders them to hold out as long as they can, saying they cannot let the skeletons break through. Ji-hyuk and the white-haired girl run toward the location through a back alley. The moment Ji-hyuk sees the skeletons, he immediately realizes he made the right decision to come. He had a bad feeling about the skeletons, and now he confirms that these skeletons are the ones he created. Ji-hyuk begins casting his magic and assesses the skeletons' numbers, concluding that they form a Centurion-level group. Ji-hyuk is relieved that he discovered this in time. There is not much damage yet because the skeletons are still in exploration mode, so the situation has not escalated severely. Ji-hyuk needs to recover them quickly before the exploration ends. He tries to take control of the skeletons, but it turns out that it is not working. Ji-hyuk becomes very worried, as the skeletons could enter combat mode at any moment at this rate. The moment Ji-hyuk says it, one of the skeletons, who seems very different from the others, orders all the other skeletons, and the next moment they all charge toward the Awakener team. One of the skeletons attacks the brown-haired Awakener, who barely manages to block it. His team member asks why the skeletons are suddenly pushing harder. Their team leader informs them that the skeletons have gotten stronger than before. Meanwhile, Ji-hyuk is still trying to take control of the skeletons. Judging by their behavior, it matches the macro Ji-hyuk originally set up, but he is not sure why his control is not working. Depending on the situation, Ji-hyuk tries to use control magic on the skeleton's main leader, but even that doesn't work. After realizing this, that skeleton immediately goes toward the Awakener team leader to attack him, and despite the team leader's quick reaction, he still cannot block it. Ji-hyuk becomes very worried and frustrated seeing this. His team member asks if he is all right, but the team leader fears they cannot handle this alone and wonders if this will be the end for them. Thinking about that, he regrets meeting his end like this, especially after having just gotten a new car. Despite the situation, the team leader tries to act composed in front of his team, telling them that he simply let his guard down or else it wouldn't have happened. But he gets startled when he sees all the skeletons suddenly getting blocked by skeletal hands rising from the ground. The blue-haired man helping his team leader notices something in the sky and tells him to look. It turns out to be Ji-hyuk, who is a high-level awakener. They immediately shout for his help because these skeletons are not ordinary. Nervously, Ji-hyuk replies that this is exactly why he is there. He tries to act like he has no connection to the skeletons, but his expression gives everything away. He claims that since the skeletons are interfering with his business, he will personally take them down. Hearing Ji-hyuk's words, the team leader wonders why he sounds like that, and when he looks closely at Ji-hyuk, he realizes that Ji-hyuk seems very familiar. The team leader soon remembers that the high-level awakener in front of them is actually the CEO of Saren, Han Ji-hyuk. Ji-hyuk then uses the bone spear skill to attack and defeat the skeletons instantly. The blue-haired man is shocked after seeing that Ji-hyuk is actually a multi-ability user. Their team leader also starts sweating at the sight. He has always wondered why Ji-hyuk never created combat skeletons. Ji-hyuk lands on the ground and walks forward to take care of the remaining skeletons, while the team leader realizes that Ji-hyuk never needed to create combat skeletons because he is a multi-ability user himself. After taking care of all the skeletons, Ji-hyuk asks the Awakeners if they are alright. The blue-haired man seems very moved by Ji-hyuk and happily informs him that they are fine. He truly thought it was the end for him, so he tells Ji-hyuk that he will never forget his kindness. Ji-hyuk replies that it is nothing and that he simply did what he had to do. even though he knows these are the skeletons he created. The Awakener team leader speaks with Ji-hyuk, saying he had no idea Ji-hyuk possessed such abilities, and then bows to thank him. If Ji-hyuk hadn't come to save them, they would have been wiped out. Seeing that, Ji-hyuk tells him to raise his head. The team leader continues explaining how the monsters acted like they had intelligence, which was very strange. The other members also share their thoughts after encountering the monsters, which feels painfully ironic to Ji-hyuk since he is the one who created them. The team leader then asks for Ji-hyuk's opinion, since he is considered an expert on skeletons. Ji-hyuk doesn't reply and hesitates, so he quickly changes the topic and summons moving skeletons to assist. He tells the Awakeners to focus on transporting the injured first. Many people are hurt, so prioritizing treatment is the most important. The team leader agrees, decides to prioritize evacuation, and thanks Ji-hyuk again, informing him that he will formally visit him later. The remaining Awakeners focus on loading the seriously injured. After everything ends, Ji-hyuk exhales, thinking that the Awakeners were much weaker than he expected since only 100 skeletons defeated a D-rank Awakener. But that is not the main issue right now. Ji-hyuk then picks up the remaining skeleton bone, hoping he can learn something from it. Later, in a room, Ji-hyuk inspects the bones while the white-haired girl plays with the mana cores. Ji-hyuk tries to use his magic on the bones. Even though the macros he set seem intact, the mana inside is definitely not his. Ji-hyuk realizes why subspace didn't activate. Subspace can only store things imbued with his mana. While he is trying to figure things out, he gets frustrated with the white-haired girl because she keeps making noise with the mana cores. Ji-hyuk lightly punches her arm, telling her it is so loud that he can't think. After that, Ji-hyuk grabs the magic core and asks her if she even knows what it is. He explains that monster cores are not cheap, so it would be very bad if they broke. While examining the magic core, Ji-hyuk notices that the mana inside matches the mana in the skeleton bones. The mana is unrefined, rough, and crude, similar to natural mana or the mana inside a gate. Realizing this, Ji-hyuk wonders if the force controlling the skeletons came from inside the gate. Ji-hyuk concludes that when he crossed over to Earth, his body came through normally, but the items in his subspace fused with the gate instead of staying with him. Ji-hyuk starts crying, thinking about all the treasures he lost, and wonders if this was some sort of cosmic delivery mistake. Since his mana wasn't there, the gate's mana replaced it, which is why he couldn't control the skeletons and why they only followed the macros. Thinking about this, Ji-hyuk becomes very worried. If the skeletons were able to come out, then other things could emerge as well. He becomes scared imagining something like a Death Knight or a meat golem appearing. Even though he created them, he knows he cannot defeat them. Ji-hyuk decides that he must create an undead that can fight in his place. He plans to rebuild his undead army, but the biggest obstacle is the lack of crystal stones. He thinks he might be able to substitute the magic cores, so he decides to try. Ji-hyuk places the magic core near the skeleton bones. High-grade undead require magic circles engraved in gold, so Ji-hyuk also needs something to cover their weaker aspects, which means he needs even more money. The money he has earned from his business is nowhere near enough. Ji-hyuk sits on the sofa sobbing, wondering when he will ever be able to retire. The way to make more money faster is simple. He just needs to increase production, and profits will continue growing. But if he keeps using that method, efficiency will drop too much. As Kim mentioned, he needs to acquire a large factory and turn it into a hybrid structure. Even acquiring a new factory requires more money, so in the end, everything comes down to money again. If Ji-hyuk goes into a gate to hunt right now, he could make extra income, but after decades of grinding, he really doesn't want to hunt anymore. Despite that, Ji-hyuk knows he still has to hunt because of the current situation. Just as he is about to leave, he gets a call from someone. He answers, saying that he is not giving any interviews, not accepting any memberships, and only taking orders. The person on the phone tells him that he isn't calling for any of those reasons and introduces himself as Park Woo-jin, the team leader of the emergency response team. Woo-jin then asks if Ji-hyuk remembers him. Ji-hyuk recognizes him and nervously asks about Woo-jin's condition. Woo Jin explains that he was discharged from the hospital today and wanted to thank Ji Hyuk on behalf of his team members, then asks if it would be alright to visit. Ji Hyuk agrees and sends him the location. He goes outside the building to meet Woo Jin, who arrives in a shiny red car. Woo Jin steps out. He is a D-rank awakener and the team leader of the emergency response team. He walks over to Ji Hyuk, thanking him again for saving them back then. Woo Jin then asks if he is disturbing Ji Hyuk while he is busy. Ji Hyuk tells him it is fine since he was just resting, and then compliments Woo Jin's car, asking if it is expensive. Woo Jin confirms that it is very expensive, and he actually had to overextend himself to buy it. But as an awakener, he couldn't just drive any car. Hearing that, Ji Hyuk asks if awakeners buy a lot of cars. Woo Jin confirms that this is usually the case, to the point that once an awakener starts making money, the first thing they buy is a nice imported car. Curiously thinking about that, Ji Hyuk asks Woo Jin if he can ask him a favor. Woo Jin happily replies that of course he can, since Ji Hyuk is his lifesaver. Ji Hyuk smiles and says he has come up with an amazing business idea, so he wants to hear Woo Jin's opinion on it. Ji Hyuk takes Woo Jin to the dungeon byproduct market, and Woo Jin asks why they suddenly came there. As they browse through the products, Ji Hyuk tells him that everything has a reason. He stops at one of the shops, points at a staff, and asks the shopkeeper if he has anything bigger than that. The shopkeeper asks what size he is looking for, so Ji Hyuk asks if he has a high-ranked monster that is at least the size of a horse, preferably quadrupedal. Hearing the requirement, the shopkeeper suggests Demora. Woo Jin explains that it is a large feline monster and a B rank, so it should be sturdy as well. Hearing that, Ji Hyuk finds it perfect and decides to purchase it. He then asks the shopkeeper if he has anything else, and the shopkeeper informs him that there is one smaller and weaker than Demora but similar in appearance to a horse. Ji Hyuk decides to take that one too. After purchasing them, Ji Hyuk puts everything into his subspace. Woo Jin, who believed it was only supposed to store summoning beasts, is shocked to see Ji Hyuk storing other things as well. Startled, Ji Hyuk nervously makes up an excuse, saying that after various experiments, it turned out that other things could be stored too, though he isn't sure whether it only works with bones or not. Woo Jin finds this suspicious because Ji Hyuk collected all the fragments last time as well, but he decides to stop thinking about it. Ji Hyuk then asks the shopkeeper for the total cost of the products. Afterward, they return to the factory, where Ji Hyuk tells Woo Jin that his role is crucial now. Woo Jin agrees to help with anything Ji Hyuk needs. Ji Hyuk opens his subspace, ready to test the new creature. It is a beast-type skeleton monster. Because of its intimidating build, Woo Jin mistakenly thinks Ji Hyuk wants him to fight it, so he takes off his jacket and gets into a battle stance, determined to do his best. He recalls that Demora is a B-rank monster, so he knows he wouldn't stand a chance with his current skills, but he assumes Ji Hyuk will make it go easy on him. Instead, Ji Hyuk smiles mischievously and tells Woo Jin to ride it. Woo Jin is completely confused and asks again, unsure if he heard right. Seeing this, Ji Hyuk realizes there is no saddle, so he quickly creates one and excitedly tells Woo Jin to try riding it. Woo Jin hesitates, but Ji Hyuk reminds him that he agreed to help, leaving him no choice. He gets on the Demora, but the ride makes him extremely sick. Seeing this, Ji Hyuk decides to adjust Demora's seat and asks Woo Jin to try again. This time, the ride feels much more stable and comfortable. Ji Hyuk likes that review and asks if they should test it at running speed. After the test, Ji Hyuk asks for final feedback, and Woo Jin replies that he thinks it could be used for everyday riding. Ji Hyuk is pleased with that response and decides to stop adjusting it for now. Woo Jin gets off and asks if it is a combat-type summoned beast. His eyes sparkle as he says that if someone rides it, it could definitely help in combat. Ji Hyuk sighs and clarifies that it is not a combat type, adding that if he needed cavalry, he would just make something like a centaur, questioning why they should bother riding it. Ji Hyuk introduces the Demora as a product made specifically for riding and reveals that he plans to create and sell it. Hearing that Ji Hyuk intends to sell these beasts, Woo Jin asks again for confirmation, and Ji Hyuk tells him to wait because the customization isn't finished yet. Ji Hyuk then uses his magic to upgrade the appearance of Demora. After finishing the model, he asks Woo Jin if it looks alright. Woo Jin is amazed by the new appearance, and even the white-haired girl seems impressed. The once bone-like Demora has now transformed into a creature with a realistic cheetah-style look. Ji Hyuk finds it to be a very good reaction. After that, the white-haired girl plays with the skeleton model, while Ji Hyuk and Woo Jin continue discussing ideas. Ji Hyuk believes that even though the riding beast doesn't have any special functions, the fact that it can be used inside gates gives it strong market appeal. Woo Jin agrees and adds more suggestions, saying that if it were him, he would gather all his resources to buy one. He then asks if it can be made in different colors. Woo Jin suggests adding black bone armor with metal plates layered on top, and says that if there were a shine around the legs, it would look even cooler. He also asks Ji Hyuk if the beast can react when touched, to give it a sense of interaction. Ji Hyuk really likes these ideas and encourages Woo Jin to keep suggesting more. Meanwhile, the white-haired girl continues taking pictures with the skeleton model. The prototype riding beast is eventually loaned to team leader Woo Jin. Later, the sight of him joyfully riding it through the city becomes a hot topic. As expected, inquiries about the riding beast flood Saren, and it turns out to be a massive hit. Woo Jin happily tells Ji Hyuk that the riding beast has now become an eye-catching moving machine. Ji Hyuk is pleased and then asks Woo Jin if he can extend his vacation a little longer, promising him a 30% discount when he purchases the riding beast later. Woo Jin immediately agrees and uses the rest of his leave days after hearing that offer. Ji Hyuk decides to start designing custom options, beginning with the armor and glowing eyes. While he is working, the blue-haired man walks in and announces that he has completed all the line adjustments Ji Hyuk ordered. However, he becomes shocked when he sees the riding beast sitting there. He stares at it in awe, excited to see an undead riding beast he never imagined he'd witness in real life. Team leader Baek arrives as well, so Ji Hyuk invites him to help with the design since they are about to begin working on the custom options. Baek asks if he is really allowed to join, and Ji Hyuk confirms he can. Hearing that, Baek becomes highly motivated. He grabs a pen and starts designing, suggesting a silver base that matches the bone color along with similar metallic decorations. He draws everything on paper and then asks Ji Hyuk for his opinion. Ji Hyuk thinks the design looks refined and elegant, so he likes it. Woo Jin comments that the design seems too delicate and says that a riding beast should look powerful at first glance. Ji Hyuk finds their dynamic admirable, thinking that friendly competition always leads to better results. Drawing their attention, Ji Hyuk informs them that they will try both designs and see which one receives the most votes. If Baek wins, he will get a special bonus, and if Woo Jin wins, he will receive an additional discount. The competition between Baek and Woo Jin begins. As expected, Ji Hyuk has successfully lit the fire between them, and they both get to work enthusiastically. Ji Hyuk pats the riding beast, already imagining the sound of money growing. Finally, the day of the first Saren riding horse lottery event arrives, where a lucky person can become the first owner of a Saren riding horse in Korea. A large crowd has gathered, including the media. Ji Hyuk steps out from behind the curtain, introduces himself to the public, and begins explaining today's event, where they are unveiling the Skeleton Commander horse. He starts by showing the basic foundation model to the audience. Ji Hyuk drapes a red cloth over the basic model and reveals the first ever Skeleton Commander horse to the world. The media and some attendees seem underwhelmed at first. Ji Hyuk snaps his fingers, noting that it might look quite different from what they saw online. The latest model is then brought onto the stage. Ji Hyuk announces that this is the version everyone has been waiting for. The newest model features black armor and silver eyes. The media is immediately captivated by its appearance and begins taking photos. Ji Hyuk pats the riding horse and explains that its appearance can be customized according to the owner's preferences. This means that anyone who purchases a commander horse can personalize its look. The riding horse is not only practical for daily life, but also usable in gates. With its monster evasion function, it can automatically avoid threats and return to its owner when summoned. The public comments that such features would make traversing gates much more convenient. The design is also striking. While most Awakeners usually drive sports cars near gates, arriving on a commander horse offers a completely different impression. Ji-hyuk then decides to stop the lengthy explanation and encourages the audience to experience the horse themselves. Now, it's time to draw the winner who will take home the commander horse. Ji-hyuk announces that the base price is 150 million won. The white-haired girl brings the lottery box to Ji-hyuk, who draws the winning number. The winner is number 37. He raises his hands in excitement and approaches the stage. Ji-hyuk congratulates him and hands him a tablet, explaining that he can choose customization options from it. If he wants a design not listed, that's possible too. The golden-haired man, unfamiliar with design details, decides to select from the available options. Browsing through the designs, he comments that the price is a bit steep. Ji-hyuk mentions that a card installment plan is available, but the golden-haired man confirms he has enough cash to pay up front. Ji-hyuk realizes that he must be a high-ranking Awakener. Other Awakeners in the audience recognize him as team leader Seo Hansok of Hanul Guild's Team 1. Ji-hyuk recalls that Hanul is one of Korea's top 10 guilds and a major player. Hansok asks if he can see how the customization looks when equipped because the catalog doesn't give a clear idea. Ji-hyuk explains that once equipped, the horse is considered used, so they cannot do that, but he can show the parts separately. He calls the manager to bring the components. Glowing eyes on both sides worth around 30 million won, a silver armor set worth 150 million won, a golden aura worth 50 million won, and 2 pairs of golden claws worth 20 million won. Beck is pleased that the customer chose his design, while Woo Jin feels defeated. Hansok then asks if his initials can be engraved with the glow effect on both sides. Ji-hyuk informs him that each additional glow costs 10 million won, so engraving both sides would total nearly 700 million won. Since Hansok cannot afford that immediately, he asks if it can be added later, and Ji-hyuk confirms that the factory can do so. Hansok instructs Ji-hyuk to put the letter S on both sides for now and add a small one on the forehead. After adding the options, the total price comes to 1.5 billion won, including the base price of 7 billion won. Once everything is explained, Ji-hyuk registers the riding horse for Hansok and instructs him to extend his hand toward the horse's head. Hansok follows the instructions. The magic circle binding appears, and ownership of the horse is officially transferred to him. After that, the riding horse begins showing affection and reacting to Hansok. Ji-hyuk then tells Hansok that the last step is to give Demora a name. Hansok, clearly impressed, decides to name it Yundel. Ji-hyuk, however, is not pleased, thinking that everything was perfect until this final detail. He then announces that from now on, Yundel's official owner is Hansok. Ji-hyuk moves on to the next commander. For ordinary people, there had traditionally been 2 ways to encounter monsters, either through the media or by witnessing a monster emerge directly from an unstable gate and charge at them. Now, a new way has emerged. When people in the city see the riding horse for the first time, they often mistake it for a monster and try to flee, but quickly realize it is harmless because someone is riding it. Many immediately understand that it is a commander horse, a summoned creature. Hansok, riding Yundel, is thrilled as people comment on how cool it looks. The S engraved on its forehead immediately identifies him as Hansok, a hunter from Hanul Guild. Hansok enjoys the attention and happily tells Yundel to relax. The public is even more impressed by the horse's gestures, and curiosity spreads as many begin wanting to ride it. When Hansok returns to his guild, his team members gather around, surprised. One comments that although they have dealt with many Democrats before, this one feels completely different. Hansok proudly introduces its name as Yundel. Curious, a teammate asks if they can pet it, having heard that Yundel can show affection. Hansok explains that it is reserved for registered owners only. The guild leader, Kim Hanul, arrives and compliments Hansok on his new ride. He inspects Yundel and notes that it is wearing armor on the outer layer. Hansok tells Yundel to rest, but Hanul insists on a closer inspection. Hansok hesitates, asking what Hanul intends to do. Hanul reassures him that he only wants to look. Hansok asks again, confirming if Hanul is really just going to observe. Hanul nods and begins inspecting Yundel, commenting on its sturdy build. Suddenly, Hanul says that from videos, it seems the armor can be customized, so he decides to try removing it. Hansok is startled and tries to stop him, asking what he is doing. Ignoring him, Hanul continues, applying more force when it doesn't budge. Hansok rushes toward him, shouting that the armor is not removable, but Hanul does not listen and ends up breaking it. Hansok is furious, calling out Yundel's name in anguish. Hanul asks why the armor came off, and Hansok angrily explains that he had already said the design was one piece. But Hanul didn't listen and tore it off before he could intervene. Hanul, now nervous, apologizes and asks if Hansok wants him to provide a replacement. This irritates Hansok further, as a new one would not be Yundel. Hanul then offers to repair it, and Hansok yells at him to have the guild master handle it instead. Hanul agrees, taking full responsibility for fixing the armor. Afterwards, Hansok orders Hanul not to touch Yundel or its armor without first consulting Ji-hyuk. He finally relents this time, understanding the guild master's position, but warns that if another incident occurs, he will leave the guild immediately. The commander mounts sold successfully, earning an average profit of hundreds of millions per unit, and all of Ji-hyuk's worries vanished instantly. However, he soon received news that the first ever sold commander mount had returned to him completely destroyed. To think that the very first commander mount, the foundation of such grand plans, would be ruined after just a few days. Hanul, worried, asked Ji-hyuk if the mount was reparable. Ji-hyuk grabbed the torn bones, inspected them, and confirmed that it could be repaired, but it would be expensive. Given the level of damage, they would need to find matching bones and replace everything because the current bones were shattered. Hanul became very worried and frustrated, saying it meant that the entire Yundel would have parts from a different body. Ji-hyuk wondered why he was acting so anxious, noting that a bone is just a bone. Hanul remained concerned, explaining that if Hansok found out about replacing the entire skeleton, he would be furious. Ji-hyuk suggested gluing the broken pieces together, but warned that since it was already shattered, it would break even more easily next time. Hanul felt relieved at the suggestion and told Ji-hyuk to wait while he called Hansok. He informed him of everything that had happened, and after deciding, Hanul relayed Hansok's request to restore Yundel to its original state, as he had grown very attached in just a few days. Ji-hyuk accepted the order and informed Hanul that the repair would cost around 50 million won, which was necessary to maintain the mount's durability. Hanul confirmed that money was not an issue and begged Ji-hyuk to take good care of it. After accepting the order, Ji-hyuk asked Hanul how Yundel had been destroyed, saying that even if it had been hit by a speeding car, it wouldn't have ended up like this. Hanul hesitated but admitted that he had more or less torn it apart himself. Ji-hyuk didn't understand, wondering what he meant. Hanul explained that he had seen a video online where bones automatically assembled into armor, snapping into place perfectly. Thinking that it would be perfect for him, he had tried it, but things went wrong, and Yundel was destroyed. Hanul then asked if it was possible to make armor for humans too. Ji-hyuk didn't understand at first, so he asked why anyone would need armor for a human. Hanul explained that it would fit perfectly on his arm and revealed his ability of gigantification, which allows him to grow up to about 10 meters. However, equipment has always been a problem, so he can't stay in his giant form all the time. Hearing this, Ji-hyuk suggested making the armor from stretchable material. Hanul confirmed that he was already using such a material but hesitated to wear it. Ji-hyuk decided to see it for himself rather than rely on explanations. Hanul asked if Ji-hyuk wanted to see it immediately, and Ji-hyuk explained that if he was going to make armor for him, he needed to see it firsthand. Hanul hesitated but eventually agreed to show it to Ji-hyuk. The white-haired girl joined them, and after making up his mind, Hanul activated his ability. He was extremely embarrassed, and the white-haired girl tried to make a video but stopped when Ji-hyuk told her to. He also instructed Hanul to stop the gigantification. Ji-hyuk then explained that Hanul didn't actually need highly defensive armor. Hanul changed into new clothes and agreed. saying that he only needed something to cover his body, not attract attention. Even with a good physique, he didn't want to be a public spectacle. Ji-hyuk agreed, and Hanul continued, asking if Ji-hyuk understood what it felt like to fight in a skin-tight blue suit while everyone else wore cool armor. Ji-hyuk sweated, realizing this was something he had never wanted to experience. Hanul revealed that because of his gigantification, he always stood out, and news images of him in the blue suit flooded social media. The situation was so embarrassing that he couldn't go outside, and even his daughter was ashamed of him at this point. That is why Hanul had always dreamed of clothing that could freely adjust to his body size. He told Ji-hyuk that having armor functionality would be nice, but was not essential. He was willing to pay whatever it took and asked Ji-hyuk again if he could make it for him. Ji-hyuk had initially planned to make money by selling commander mounts, but he thought this armor request wasn't a bad opportunity either. Perhaps it could help him build rapport with an S-rank awakener. Thinking about that, Ji-hyuk recalled that back on the Saren continent, when he was fixing glitches in the macros, he had attached skeletons to martial artist bodies to measure their movements and use the data. He then asked Hanul about his primary weapon. Fortunately, Hanul only used martial arts, as carrying weapons while gigantic would be cumbersome. Ji-hyuk liked how things were going and, in a robotic, angelic tone, confirmed to Hanul that he would make it for him. Hanul wondered what was unusual about Ji-hyuk's tone. Ji-hyuk continued, explaining that if he was going to make the armor anyway, he would ensure it had proper functionality. Hanul just needed to provide the best materials he could find, such as high-grade monster bones. Ji-hyuk also confirmed that it would be very expensive. Hanul felt motivated and thanked Ji-hyuk, assuring him that money was no issue. A few days later, Hanul was pacing anxiously in the room, eagerly waiting for the armor. Hansok shouted at him to stop, saying he was making him dizzy. Hanul replied that he couldn't help it because he was finally getting real armor, and Hansok was also waiting for Yundel, so why shouldn't he be excited? Hanul approached Hansok and asked how much longer it would take. Hansok replied that the factory said it would be done in a few days and that they would contact them. Hanul pressed further, asking when exactly a few days would be, which angered Hansok. He suggested that Hanul call the factory himself. Hanul hesitated, worried that calling might rush the process and ruin the outfit. Hanul kept fretting, so Hansok told him to stop worrying and just wait for the results. He then advised Hanul to treat Ji-hyuk well if the armor turned out good. Hanul didn't understand, so Hansok explained that Ji-hyuk was the only person capable of making custom clothes for him, and he needed to build a strong relationship. Hearing that, Hanul asked if he should invite Ji-hyuk to join the guild. Hansok replied that Ji-hyuk wouldn't join, since he was already wealthy and clearly focused on making money from his business. He also mentioned that Ji-hyuk didn't even go near gates. Hearing this, Hanul wondered why Ji-hyuk had intervened during the unstable gate incident. Hansok speculated that it might have been because it was near Ji-hyuk's company or because he was curious about the skeletons involved. Hanul commented that Ji-hyuk was very unusual. Hansok added that although Ji-hyuk was greedy for money, he hadn't started making it immediately with his ability. If he intended to reveal his power, there would have been no reason to hide it. Yet even after revealing his abilities, Ji-hyuk showed no interest in gates. Hanul asked why, since most awakeners want to grow stronger by gaining combat experience in gates. Hansok explained that everyone has their reasons. Some awakeners reject violence for religious beliefs or other reasons. But if that were the case, Ji-hyuk wouldn't have intervened last time. Hanul suggested that Ji-hyuk might have trauma related to gates. Just then, Hanul received a call and picked it up. He got the news that his armor was finally ready. Upon hearing the news, Hanul immediately headed out, telling Hansok to take care of the office. Excited, he went straight to the factory. Ignoring everything else, he asked to see the finished product. Ji-hyuk gave him the location and instructed him to unveil it himself. Overjoyed, Hanul arrived, took out the armor, and was extremely pleased with the finished product.